NFL kickoff week rolls on the Irish NFL show. Delighted to welcome in the main man for the Ireland and the UK with the NFL Sky Sports, Neil Reynolds. Neil, welcome back to the Irish NFL show. It's been a while, but we're delighted to have you back on.
It's good to be back. I always enjoy chatting to you guys. I look on jealously when you have different people on, and I'm thinking, will I get that? It's still the all important sort of, it's like writing a second book, do you get the second invite? And to me, this is, I don't care what happens from September to February now, this is year made. So great to be here.
Definitely going to clip that up now, boys, and put that out before Thursday. Neil, you're talking about February and stuff. I mean, you've had quite a busy, 7 or 8 months. Well, I guess 7 months since the Super Bowl. But how have you been during the off season?
Yeah, it's been busy. Actually, quite busy time. Obviously, we did the draft. We have the draft on Sky, and then after the draft, I get into my season preview magazine. So that's like a couple of months of writing that, and then try and get in a couple of little breaks. Didn't go abroad this year. I went overseas. I went to the Isle of Wight. So I had to get on a ferry, so that's overseas. So did that, and then came back, caught a few passes from George, and then everything was like 100 miles an hour trying to get him ready for Canada. So now back, did 32 live last week, and ready to get into it now. Got that last week was get the rust off, 4-hour live show, and ready to go again.
Yeah, as you've had some pretty sweet interviews over the course of the summer, Neil, and saw your pre-season predictions. And what caught my eye, because I think it's a fascinating pick, is Trey Lance. You have him down for offensive rookie of the year, and obviously in that Kyle Shanahan system, I think he can do so many things. Just interested, when do you envisage him starting? I mean, as we record this today, he's yet to throw a football this week, although apparently he was gripping the ball during training today. But where do you see them making the move from Jimmy G to Trey Lance?
I think we've got to be looking with Trey Lance and with Justin Fields, mid-October at the latest. And I still think if he does what I think he can do in that system, I think that's still enough time for him to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think with both those guys, with Jimmy Garoppolo in San Francisco, with Andy Dalton in Chicago, there's a ceiling. We know that they're a kind of safe option to start, but I just think Kyle Shanahan's schemed open so many different things over the years with Matt Ryan at quarterback, with Jimmy Garoppolo, and I wonder what he can do with a Trey Lance. And I also think there's the pressure from above, the ownership. There were 3 first-round draft picks invested in Trey Lance, 2 in Justin Fields. You've got to give those guys a chance to show what they can do on the field, and I don't think you wait until next year. So I think it's more my hope of kind of hoping that I see those guys, because I think they represent that kind of exciting new breed of quarterback who can do a bit of everything. So let's say mid-October at the latest. Otherwise, Bears fans will be in complete meltdown by then. I think 49ers might be a bit more patient, but only just.
Neil, just looking ahead to this Sunday, the 2 games. I know you joked last week that you didn't pick them because everybody thinks you picked the games for Sky, but you just said about the rust and not doing the show. I know the 22 last week, but week 1 for Neil Reynolds, what's that all about in terms of, do you change the plan? Do you get into the facilities early as possible? Do you have a different kind of run-of-the-mill Sunday compared to normal weeks during the season?
No, I try and keep it kind of the similar stuff. I'll do most of my prep Friday, Saturday, make last notes on Sunday morning. Probably leave home about 2:00, 2:30, get to the studios about 4:30, probably get to the studio about 4 normally, and then we go on air at 5. So it's getting that, you're in your seat by 4. So I always want to do an hour of being in the studio, ready to go. I would say this week, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes earlier than that, just to make sure it's a new set. Cause it's funny, you get all these, you get the set, which looks amazing, and you get everything kind of, so the viewer sees it looking great. And then you suddenly realize, I don't have a monitor to watch Red Zone. This may be a problem. So So no, try and keep it normal. But I don't necessarily sort of get there hours and hours before. As long as we've got an hour of rehearsal time, then kind of just everything's reacting on the fly and to live stuff after that pre-game show. So just normally like every fan, then just can't wait for it to get started. It feels weird that it's back after such a long time away, and then after a couple of weeks, you're back in the groove and away you go. So.
And like you said, Neil, you've done NFL 32, so you've been, just getting the juices flowing again, getting a bit of the training going. It's like the Olympics this year. You're building up to the main event again for your 18-week haul now of the regular season instead of our traditional 17. Neil, you mentioned about being a fan, and that's one of the things, I suppose, obviously, that, endears you to the NFL community in the sense of not only your journalistic passion, but your fandom comes shining through. You know the game, you love the game, you follow the game. Unfortunately for you, you support the Miami Dolphins, but it does strike me as a fan of another AFC East team in the New England Patriots. You mentioned about the rookie quarterbacks. That's an intriguing division this year. I mean, we have the Alabama quarterbacks, like not since Bart Starr, Joe Namath, Ken Stabler, we had decent Alabama quarterbacks in the league. And now Josh Allen, and we covered it on our season preview show, Josh Allen is the veteran in that division. You've got a degree of an interest. How do you see all that playing out, especially with the young guys, with the Jets, the Pats, and indeed your Dolphins?
Yeah, it is a fascinating division. I've been doing a lot of interviews in that division, the Jets and Dolphins. It's weird. Young quarterbacks now. It used to be Brady for years. Young quarterbacks, but defensive head coaches across the board, which is a kind of unique combination. It's going to be exciting. I don't know anything about the guy in New England. Never heard of him. Don't reckon he'll amount to much. Looks like he's got a bit of a beer belly when he plays. I wouldn't worry about him. He'll be gone soon. And you can try again. This is what happens. If you think Dolphins after Dan Marino, do you want me to list them? How long have we got? I could do Cleo Lemon, Jay Fiedler,
Joey Harrington,
bad Dante Culpepper. Don't forget bad Dante Culpepper could have been Drew Brees as well. So.
Yeah. Joey
I really don't want you to join in. No, I don't need you to join
Greasy,
in.
who wasn't like his father, Bob Greasy, won you a Super Bowl. We can keep going, Neil. It's good.
Oh, my goodness. Now, look, Mac Jones, I think is going to be really exciting. I think it's funny. What did Belichick like about Brady? It was, I heard this quote about him. He's like, he has the answer to every question in the test. And, Mac Jones is not going to have every answer yet, but it certainly looks like he's very intelligent. He's quick to diagnose stuff, quick to get the ball out. I don't want to say robotic because that sounds like a negative, but I'm saying that as a positive. He could be a Belichick robot. And I think Patriots are going to get themselves right back into the playoff mix. Cam was poor last year. Cam Newton was poor and that held them back. They didn't have a lot around him. They've invested. Fascinating division. I think Miami are tough. I don't know if they're there yet, and I'm not sure. I'm one of those who needs to be shown that Tua is the answer. I'm not about to jump on the bandwagon yet. I think he's got a long way to go. And then Josh Allen and the Bills, I think they're out in front. To me, I've made my picks and stuff. I'm picking them to win the Super Bowl. I think he's special.
Just before we talk about the Bills, Neil, it's been fantastic to see preseason games on the Sky Sports channel in Ireland and the UK this summer. I've really enjoyed it. I actually might be wrong. I'm not sure if that's the first time that's happened, but it's been fantastic. And it's been good to see guys like Mac Jones and stuff in the preseason. And we'll see how that translates into the regular season this weekend. But even seeing the upgrade now, nearly going year on year on the NFL channel and Sky, seeing that show last week, NFL 32, what was that like for you? Because I know just sitting there as a fan watching it for 3 or 4 hours, it was as if, nobody had ever been away. It was almost as if like Baldy and Jeff were standing there with you. Like the new studio, it really works.
It does. And I think what's exciting this year and what people are going to see, I do have 2 guests in the studio with me for the first couple of weeks of the season, but there will be times where there's just one, and we are going to load up on the Zoom guests. So we've got some incredible people lined up to join us on Sunday nights, because that way we can go for a different guest who we don't have to pay to fly over. We can pay them more to sit in their living room and do it, because everyone's got kind of used to watching guests be on Zoom and Skype and stuff. So, pray to the Wi-Fi gods that it all holds up. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to bring bring in some big names, bring in a lot of different voices. So I think by the end of a Sunday night, you'll have heard from 8 or 9 people from the States, and that's what we want to bring, because we're on air for so long. So yes, you want the guys in the studio, but you also want the red zone highlights, all of that stuff. And I do feel like we've kicked it on, and I think Dan Hanses kind of joked last week during the live show, how the hell have you got Trevor Lawrence? And I do feel quite proud when they say that, because he's like, we work for NFL Network and we can't get Trevor Lawrence. But we've worked hard at it. We've cultivated good relationships, and I think I hope people are going to enjoy what they see this year. They're going to hear from a lot of different pundits. All the familiar faces will be in there as well, but you're going to get a lot of big names and a lot of good analysis, I think.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like lots to look forward to. But I suppose the man who's owned Sundays for the better part of 2 decades is one Tom Brady, Neil. And an interesting week, because we saw the interview he gave where he talked about how, he felt the game had possibly swung too far towards the offense. And, he had been so careful when he wasn't trying to put his receivers in Ray Lewis's way. But we've also seen him come out and talk about COVID and how he thinks that it could have a bigger impact this year than even last year. And I suppose just on those two things, kind of interested in your thoughts in terms of offense, defense, and on this year and COVID.
Definitely agree with what he said about the offenses and the way they play. I sit next to a lot of frustrated defenders or defensive coaches in the studio who get very irate. Our beloved Jeff hates some of the calls that go against the defensive players. And, I think quarterbacks are still taught not to throw their receivers into trouble. They're taught that, but there are no consequences if they do that to the offense as much as they used to be. I sit with, when it's around London games, I talk to older alumni, and they're like, the middle of the field's wide open now. The middle of the field, you just wouldn't have gone there. Like you said, say it's Ray Lewis. You just run a slant at your own peril then, and now it's like a highway straight down the middle, the tight ends, slot receivers. That's where some of the biggest production comes from. Right down the middle of the field is like a freeway. And then I agree on the COVID stuff as well. I kind of raised this on NFL 32 Live. I don't think we're out of the woods with the COVID. In fact, I don't know the exact numbers, but I saw the headline this week. Dallas have had more players go on the COVID reserve list this week than they had all of last season. I don't know if that's a letting down of the guard. Peter King reported that Trevor Lawrence was at a college game this weekend in a luxury box, no face mask. So I just feel like that's going to come up, and everyone's going to be like, that is still a thing. That is still a thing. And we've got to watch for the friction internally with teams. Everyone has the right, we all have whatever we've done with the vaccine, and I'm double vaccinated. That's my right. That's my opinion. That's my belief. Kirk Cousins hasn't had the vaccine. Carson Wentz hasn't had the vaccine. That's not going to affect me and Kirk Cousins or Carson Wentz. But if we're on the same team and one of us can go home or can go and eat with the players in the cafeteria, the other one's got to take his food to his room. One's got to have testing every day. One can't leave the city on bye week. One could cost us forfeiting games and the other one can't. One's going to go missing for 5 days. The other one's not. It's still going to play a part, still going to play a role this year.
Neil, last year's NFL 32 Live, technical issues gone live to the Giants facilities. This year, we're the last team to be discussed on the show. I have Giants fans texting me saying, Neil just doesn't like us whatsoever. And I'd say, we haven't given him anything to talk about for the past 4 to 5 years. But this year, most Giants fans are actually looking at this team in a good way. I know, having read your preview magazine, you haven't necessarily picked them to win the division, but what's your expectations for the team this year?
So I thought they showed some stuff last year, didn't they? I thought there was actually a point where they might have sneaked the division. They won that game at Seattle, and then kind of hit a wall. Look, it's all about the offense for me. Can Daniel Jones kick on? I think it's been a frustrating summer. Kadarius Toney, Kenny Golladay kind of missing for feel like that happens a lot with Golladay at the moment, and that's a big money signing. So want to see him hit the ground. Can we trust Saquon? Yeah, special talent, but there comes a time when you've done certain things in the NFL where you kind of are what you put on film and put on, and Saquon's had some injuries, and that's been a constant, unfortunately. So offensive line worries me. Secondary is one of the best in the NFL, but it all comes to, it's a quarterback league, so it comes down to Daniel Jones. Can he show more poise? I think they'll be tough on their day, but I think they'll still be the third best team in that division for me. I think people get attracted to Dallas, but I prefer Washington. I think Washington could be pretty interesting this year. Then you've got Dallas with their firepower, but who knows? They've got to pick it up. They've got to be able to score more points. You can't win 13-10.
Neil, you mentioned about the impact of
Mark's
COVID.
Muted.
Oh,
good.
I was
I
just,
don't want any more Patriots abuse.
Neil, I was actually going to be kind to you there, because I was going to say, Brian and the Giants fans thinking you're giving out to them. I say you've heard that from 32 franchises saying, "Oh, Neil just doesn't like us. Neil just doesn't like us."
Especially when it comes to picking the games, which I do have. I have a say in, not the say. But yeah, I hate them all. All of them.
Yeah, that makes
passion.
sense.
I don't even like the NFL. It's absolutely rubbish.
So you mentioned about the COVID impact. Actually, Urban Meyer springs to mind as well. Urban's already got his knuckles wrapped of saying we were considering vaccination status on our last cut, and then having to backtrack very quickly when the NFLPA came out and say, no, we didn't have any consideration of the vaccination status in the bottom end of our roster, but we'll let him away for the time being. Neil, there's another big event happening this weekend as well in Ireland, which is actually being featured on Sky Sports Arena. The All-Ireland Football Final will be on, and Mayo are a team, you may not know this, but they're going in trying to break a 70-year-old drought and a curse, a famous curse that exists. There are many curses in the NFL. There is a curse on, the Chargers special teams, I think we're all well aware of, but there is a special curse over the entirety of the Cleveland Browns franchise. With everything that happened last year, with Baker Mayfield seemingly turning the corner, can they break the curse? I know you picked the Bills, but can they potentially reach the promised land?
I think the Browns are to be more trusted this time around. They've been hyped before. They were hyped in 2019. I went to their training camp. They fell flat on their face in week 1 against Tennessee. They were really disappointing that year. They've got an identity now. They've got good leadership in Kevin Stefanski. I think everything goes through Nick Chubb. That helps Baker Mayfield throw on the move a bit more. Defense has been upgraded, bringing in John Johnson, those sort of guys. So yeah, I think the mistake on the lake could be a thing of the past. I feel like it's Buffalo and Kansas City are the kind of elite in the AFC. Then you've got Cleveland and Tennessee are the kind of ones that could do it if it goes well. And then you got your kind of Baltimore and Pittsburgh who've got winning traditions. I don't trust Pittsburgh, but I figure that both those coaches will find a way to figure it out. But then it goes on and on in the AFC this year. New England, Miami, the Chargers. Can Denver do anything with all those offensive weapons around Teddy Bridgewater? So why are you all shaking your head? Some Broncos fans shaking their head. Michael, no, nothing.
I was on mute. Yeah, look, I don't know, Neil. I just don't know if Teddy Bridgewater's the answer, and hopefully people from Denver aren't watching this 20 minutes in. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a bit safe, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's interesting that Teddy is being picked by a coach who's on the hot seat in Vic Fangio, and Andy Dalton's been picked by a coach on the hot seat there with Matt Nagy. So I don't know. I feel like sometimes you want to go with the exciting bit, but these coaches, they don't like turnovers. So maybe they're just thinking we'll go steady and down the middle.
Yeah, I'm just going to very quickly point out what Mark said there. Mayo's actually playing my county, Mark, and rightly on that there on Saturday. So there is no curse. Look, if Mayo do it, maybe the Browns can do it this year. I don't know. But Neil, if you want to have a watch of it on Saturday, it is good crack. And then it's over before the NFL starts on Sunday. Anyway, look, it's definitely worth a watch. Neil, I watched your appearance and your son George's appearance on Jeff's show. I mean, I was there, okay, fair enough, but I was watching it and I was listening to it, I was really enjoying it. But for people maybe in Ireland especially that aren't aware, you were over in Canada for the last couple of weeks or for a week. Can you maybe tell us a bit about the NFL Academy, your son's journey, and just how proud you are of his recent achievements?
Yeah, so George was at the played for the Kent Exiles locally in the UK, quarterback for 3 years, and went to the NFL Academy for 2 years. Had some sort of interest from universities across America, but then has gone to the University of Ottawa in Canada on a scholarship, and took him out there. It was the most stressful last 2 weeks. So he applied for his study permit in May, and it came 3 days before we flew, and it was like we were literally hanging on, checking emails every day. MPs on both sides of the Atlantic were getting involved to try and help. But I took him out last Friday. He started training camp. He's about a week into training camp now, 2-a-days and meetings until 9 o'clock at night. But he's absolutely loving it. I came back with some freebies from the athletic director. See that? Little foam finger. Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong with a foam finger. So yeah, he's loving it. He's living that kind of football life. Realizing that it's a big step up from the academy in terms of the playing level. But that's what you want. You want to be tested. You want to be coached hard. And we grab little FaceTime messages here and there, but he's either asleep half the time or watching film or in meetings. So not getting to speak to him as much as we would like, because he's been around a lot during lockdown. So it's a bit like sort of ripping the plaster off a bit quick for our family at the moment.
Well, we definitely wish him success over there. And I suppose, talking of young QBs, the return of the London Games and 2 great matchups after a year off. I mean, you got Broadway Zach, you got Kyle Pitts, obviously. Then you got the #1 overall pick in Trevor Lawrence, and your Dolphins and all their weapons around Tua. For you, like, how much are you looking forward to the London Games, and is there anything else that you'll be really looking out for, Neil?
I just thought it was, the quarterbacks for me are really exciting in this one. I think Tua versus Trevor could have been, sold out a couple of times over in Florida, so we're very lucky to have that game. I'm very keen to see what's been put around them. I think some people like Jalen Waddle, what does he do for the Dolphins? Calvin Ridley's kind of really coming on now with the Falcons, and Pitts there's loads of young talent, a lot of offensive stuff. And I'm just really enjoying the fact that the games are back in London. I've been speaking to NFL UK. We used to do the kind of tailgate stuff outside at Wembley, not so much at Tottenham because there wasn't room, but apparently we're having a mini pitch installed outside the stadium. So I will be working the morning of both games outside, getting them in there amongst the fans, speaking to alumni. So actually, that's the bit I'm most excited about, because I just love being out there on those game days in the crowd, getting all the atmosphere, doing 3 or 4 hours outside, then going in, doing 12 hours on Sky. Brilliant.
Neil, this weekend's games, you're actually looking for a week 1 set of games. There's really difficult games, and some of them are very difficult to pick. Is there any one game that you're kind of looking at more so than others? I know you're going to be looking at Red Zone and the games in which Sky are shown. And is there any particular team that you think will cause a shock this weekend?
So I think there's a couple of games outside of the ones we're showing on Sky. I think in the 6 o'clock window, I think the Chargers and Washington is a really interesting one to see how Justin Herbert does. They've rebuilt that offensive line. Just to see if that's going to hold up against Washington's front four. So I'll be keeping a big eye on that. How do the Saints fare having to go to Jacksonville to play? That's going to be a factor against the Packers. What does Jameis Winston do? Who is Jameis Winston going to be under Sean Payton? That to me is very, very interesting. And then shock. I'll be surprised if the Patriots keep it to within 40 against the Dolphins. No, I'm not going to say that. I don't know about shocks, actually. I think Pittsburgh and Buffalo, because I think Buffalo are going to, like I said, I think they're going to the Super Bowl, and I think everyone would probably think how Buffalo played last year and how Pittsburgh finished, I think that one will be very, very competitive. I think that'd be a really close game.
Do you think it'd be a shock if the Browns were to go into Arrowhead? I know on paper it looks like a shock, but having been bigged up all last season.
Yeah. So I think that's, again, I'm really fascinated and interested with that game. I think that's a really exciting week 1 matchup. That was kind of an obvious one to pick, although the Dolphins and Patriots are so well supported here in the UK and Ireland. But I think anytime a team goes into Arrowhead and wins, that's a surprise. That has to be going down as a shock, even if you're one of the better teams in the conference. But I do think those two are going deep into the playoffs. So that's a very, very interesting early season game. But I probably would pick the Chiefs. I'm not sure if I'm doing any pick'em leagues or anything this year, but I'm kind of, that's why I've not really started sort of getting really into studying all the permutations. But it might be quite nice for the stress levels not to have to do that.
I thought you might have been doing your pick podcast, so I didn't want to delve too much into your
Well, I did. So I do with both the Neil Reynolds podcast and the Pick'em podcast, or the Game Picks podcast. I vowed to do each of them for a season until I got a sponsor, and then I'd carry them on if I got a sponsor. So the Neil Reynolds podcast is on Game Pass, and I'm not doing Game Picks, so you can work out which one did well.
Love it, Neil.
I'm a mercenary.
You can join our Pick'em League. We're 50 quid a man. We'll see how the season goes, Neil. It'll be good
50
fun.
quid, that's a week's wages on Sky.
Well, look, wrapping it up, and just finally, in relation to Sky, Neil, the Iliad was an epic poem over 15,500 lines, which was broken down into 24 books. Sky Sports has supported the NFL for more than 24 years now. I think you're up to year 26, 27, potentially, if not more. But you've been a consistent broadcast partner in the NFL, and it has evolved like an epic, because now we've got a dedicated NFL channel. You've got Kay Adams coming on, obviously, with Hannah every week during the season. You've got more from around the NFL, and it just keeps building and building and building. For those that maybe have been buried in a hole somewhere for the last couple of weeks, can you break it down a little bit for us? Exactly what do we have coming up on Sky in relation to the NFL for the 21-22 season?
Yes, I think on Sunday nights, we know that Red Zone is there if people want to watch Red Zone and just watch that from start to finish. Last year was, I think, the first year that our main coverage outgained in terms of audience, outgained Red Zone on a week-to-week basis. And what we try and do is bring you everything. So we're going to bring you the main game commentary, all the main game analysis, but then we're going to bring all the Red Zone stuff in as well. We're going to bring you, as I said, 8 or 9 different voices from across the states, players, ex-players, reporters, TV people. We've got this great tie-in with Football Night in America. One of their pundits is going to join us every Sunday throughout the season in a rotation in our pre-game show. We're going to have Inside the Huddle. I think we've got Brian Baldinger signed up all season long for that as well, so he can bring us his analysis. Inside the Huddle is going to move to a Tuesday, so we can get our teeth stuck into what's happened at the weekend. Overtime will go to a Thursday. Then there's all that kind of support programming around it as well. So, we do have bringing in a lot of our own stuff, and then a lot of the best programming from America. And hopefully that does it. When you started talking about poems, I thought, oh no, he's going to get me to do a roses are red, violets are blue, and all that stuff.
I was genuinely wondering where that was going as well. And I think if you watch this back and you look at my face, I was like, where is this going? Eagles, Steelers at the Bills, 6 o'clock on Sunday, and Browns at the Chiefs, 9:25 on Sunday on Sky, and obviously the Thursday, Sunday, Monday games. Neil, just want to wish you the very, very best of luck over the next few months. I know it'll fly in as well. We're just buzzing this back, and just the very, very best for the season. And if you haven't got Sky, folks, wise the bop, as we say over here, and get it as well. And thanks a million for your time, Neil. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. And do I get a ticket to your London show?
Yes. Do you know what? Do you want to come as like the main guest or something, and we can work that out? Yeah, is that contact the agent? Yeah.
Maybe I've overcommitted myself now. Let's talk. No, I do like what you guys do. I think you do a great job. You put in the hours, and I respect that as well. Like I said, that's a part of it. You gotta keep building it and keep working at it. And I think you guys, you do the grind, which is appreciated. So I will definitely see you guys in London.
Thanks, Neil.
Thanks a million for your time, Neil. Thank you.